What if the clearest decision you ever made was waiting inside a leaf? Not a pill, not a productivity hack, not another app, just a leaf. Think about the last time your mind felt truly clear, not just awake, not just caffeinated, truly clear. When was it? For most of us, that moment feels like a distant country we used to live in. We wake up foggy. We make decisions we regret. We feel pressure building behind our eyes like a storm that never quite breaks. We call it stress. We call it burnout. We call it just life. But what if there's something else happening? Something deeper. Something your nervous system has been quietly asking for. That modern life forgot to give you? Today, we're going to talk about mint. But not the way you think. Mint is one of the oldest plants in human history. Ancient Greeks placed it on their altars. Ancient Romans rubbed it on their temples before battle. Medieval scholars scattered it across the floors of libraries, where ideas were born, where decisions were made. They didn't know about neuroscience. They didn't have brain scans or cognitive performance studies. But they knew something. They felt it. That the moment mint entered the air around them, something in their mind lifted. And now, thousands of years later, science is finally catching up to what those ancient hands already understood. Researchers at the University of Cincinnati found that people who inhaled peppermint scent performed significantly better on tasks requiring sustained attention, memory, and response accuracy. Other studies showed measurable increases in alertness, faster reaction times, and, perhaps most remarkably, reduced anxiety while under pressure. Not after the pressure passed. While it was happening. This is called the mint effect, and it changes everything about how we think about mental clarity and where to find it. Imagine your mind is a river. On a calm day, that river flows. Thoughts move through it with grace. Decisions arrive like stones you can step across, one at a time, with confidence. But pressure, real-life pressure, throws boulders into that river. Deadlines, arguments, financial fears. The weight of choices that feel too heavy for the person you feel like right now. The river becomes turbulent, muddy, and suddenly you can't see the bottom anymore. That's not weakness. That's neuroscience. When we're under acute stress, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, planning, and decision-making, begins to go offline. Your body, in its ancient wisdom, shifts control to the amygdala, the survival brain, the reactive brain, the brain that sees everything as either a threat or an escape. And that's when we make decisions we regret. That's when we say things we don't mean. That's when we freeze or panic or choose the wrong path. Not because we're not smart enough, but because our brain literally cannot access its highest functions. This is where mint enters, and the story gets fascinating. Peppermint contains a compound called menthol. Menthol doesn't just smell pleasant. It does something remarkable inside you. It activates a specific receptor in your body called TRPM8, a cold-sensitive receptor that signals your nervous system to pay attention. It's the same sensation as breathing in cold mountain air, or stepping into a forest after rain, or diving into a clear lake on a summer day. Your body interprets it as, wake up, be here, be present. Your heart rate stabilizes. Your cortisol, that heavy stress hormone that clouds your thoughts, begins to ease. Your breathing deepens, almost involuntarily, and something in the fog begins to clear. Scientists describe this as enhanced cognitive arousal without anxious activation. In plain language, it wakes your mind up without panicking it. That is extraordinarily rare. That is the river becoming clear again, while the boulders are still there. Not removing the pressure, but restoring your ability to navigate through it. Think about the moments in your life when clarity mattered most. The conversation where you had to choose your words carefully. The choice that would affect everything. Your career, your relationship, your direction. The moment you had to look someone in the eyes and tell them the truth. In all of those moments, you needed your best mind. Not your frightened mind. Not your exhausted mind. Your clearest mind. And here's the thing about that clarity. The thing that no productivity guru will ever sell you. It doesn't come from doing more. It comes from returning to something ancient. something that grew in the ground before concrete existed, before screens, before deadlines. The ancient healers weren't just being poetic when they brought plants into spaces of thinking and deciding. They were, in their own wordless way, practicing what we now call biophilic psychology, the understanding that human minds don't function optimally in isolation from nature. We were built in relationship with the living world. And when we remove that relationship, something fundamental in us goes quiet, like a tuning fork that can no longer find its frequency. There's a study, and this one still moves me every time I think about it. Participants were given high-pressure decision-making tasks in two different environments. One group worked in a standard modern office. Neutral walls, fluorescent light, no plants. The other group worked in a room with active plants, including Peppermint. Same people, same tasks, same pressure. But the group surrounded by living plants showed lower cortisol levels, faster recovery from stress, and, most strikingly, made decisions that they themselves rated as more aligned with their values. Let that settle for a moment. Not just smarter decisions, not just faster decisions, more aligned with their values. Because when the noise inside us quiets, we don't just think more clearly. We think more honestly. We remember who we actually are, beneath the exhaustion, beneath the performance, beneath the version of ourselves that learned to survive in a world that moves too fast. Here's what I want you to really hear today. Mental clarity is not a personality trait. It's not something some people have and others don't. It's a state, and states can be cultivated. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the most profound tools are the ones that have been growing quietly on windowsills and garden paths for thousands of years. So what does reconnecting with something like mint actually look like in a real, modern life? It doesn't look dramatic. It looks quiet. It might look like keeping a small mint plant on your desk, not as decoration, but as a reminder. A quiet anchor, a living thing that says, slow down, you have more capacity than you think. It might look like keeping peppermint essential oil nearby, and in moments of overwhelm, before you send that email, before you make that call, taking 3 deep, deliberate breaths of it, letting your nervous system reset, letting the river clear. Or it might look like something even simpler. A cup of peppermint tea, held in both hands. No phone, no task, just the warmth, the scent, and 2 minutes of being completely, willingly present. These are not small things. In a world that profits from your distraction, returning to yourself is a radical act. And mint, in its quiet, ancient way, has been inviting humans back to themselves for millennia. I want to tell you about a woman named Sarah. She was a project manager, brilliant, capable, the kind of person her entire team leaned on. But she'd been making decisions from a place of fog for 2 years. She described it as, and I loved how she put this, like trying to read a map in the rain. Everything she needed was there. The information, the experience, the intelligence. But she couldn't see clearly. She tried everything the modern world recommended. Time management apps, productivity journals, meditation retreats she couldn't quite stick to. And then, almost accidentally, her sister gave her a mint plant. She put it on her desk. She started making herbal tea in the mornings before her hardest calls. And she noticed, not overnight, but gradually, the way seasons change. The fog thinned. Not because mint was magic, but because it became a ritual of returning. A signal she sent to her own nervous system. Every day, you're not the pressure. You are the person capable of moving through it. That's what nature does when we let it. It doesn't fix us. It reminds us. Reminds us that clarity is our natural state. That our minds, like rivers, run clear when we stop throwing so much debris into them. That we are not machines built for constant output. We are living systems. And living systems need living things. There's a concept in Japanese philosophy called chisoku, the art of knowing when you have enough. Not settling, not giving up, but recognizing the fullness that already exists within the present moment. I think mint teaches a version of this. It doesn't demand grand gestures. It doesn't require you to change your entire life. It simply asks you to pause, to breathe, to let something real and living speak to the real and living thing inside you. The clearest decisions of your life won't come from the loudest moments. They'll come from the quiet ones, from the breath you finally take, from the moment you stop performing busyness long enough to actually be yourself again, from the unexpected wisdom of a leaf. In the ancient world, they believed that plants carried intelligence, not the kind that speaks in words, but the kind that speaks in presence, in stillness, in quiet, persistent growth toward light. Maybe, just maybe, they were right. Your mind is capable of extraordinary clarity. It always has been. Sometimes it just needs to be reminded. If something in today's story stayed with you, if some part of you recognized itself in it, then I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be. This channel exists for people who believe that the answers to modern life's heaviest questions might be growing quietly in the natural world. If that speaks to you, join us. Not because subscriber numbers matter, but because the more of us who remember to look at the world this way, the more of us that are finding clarity instead of noise. Take care of your mind. It's the most extraordinary garden you'll ever tend.